So we begin our tale in the Kingdom of Serentiel, the equivalent geographically and climate-wise to the UK, the British Isles. We find ourselves on the island of Corentiel, off the coast of Peor, the European continent equivalent. This is before you've learned how to brew. You probably know how to use the panpipes, and you probably know how to hunt. But you've got just a very few simple things. Very few simple things as Apis at this age. We start on Corentiel in a small hill village made up of mostly hill dwarves called Shafgushel, which is dwarvish for sheep hill, because it is mostly farming. They use a lot of sheep in the surrounding fields in the hills around Shafgushel. Shafgushel, bless you. Shafgushel is the town where Apis was born and raised, and you find yourselves there. For those who don't know, Apis is our character that you guys will be playing. Over this side is Apis Hive's main abilities, the things that you're not going to need in combat, things that you need outside of combat. But when we enter combat, you might want to be able to check out Apis's character sheet. So I'll work on that before the next time. I'll put it in the chat, and then you've got access to it and things. Also, don't forget that in my Discord, if you aren't in the Discord already, join the Discord, because there is a dedicated channel specifically to discussing Twitch tales. So you can talk about where we go before and after the sessions and things like that. You might notice, I'll tell you a little bit about this. Over here you can see the Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma scores. Strength and Dexterity you can see are outlined in like a glowing white light. That's because those are the ones that we have proficiency in the saving throws for. So if Apis needs to make a saving throw, it's a +1 plus the proficiency, which at level 1 is +2. So you get a +3 to your Strength saving throw, a +4 to your Dexterity, +2 to Constitution, 3 to Intelligence, 2 to Wisdom, and 1 to Charisma. And if you want to make a check, then those are the ones that we are proficient in. So if I ask for an animal handling check for Apis, then they would roll their Wisdom modifier, which is a +2, and then they would roll with a +2 proficiency because they're proficient in the skill. Their character sheet's in the Discord. I can see it now. That's right. That's another reason why I said to make sure you join the Discord and go over to that dedicated channel, because I have already posted the full character sheet in that channel. Where the hell was I? What was I talking about? Yeah, somebody asked what are panpipes. Panpipes are a type of instrument, different length pipes. You know how when you're blowing on a bottle, I don't have a bottle to demonstrate, but when you're blowing on a bottle and it's like that. If you've got lots of different sized ones, like that. That's how you play panpipes. Exactly like that. We're going to sort of just go through like a very brief sort of an anecdote of something that happened in Apis's life growing up. Did we decide how old Apis was? I don't think we did. Just sort of young adult kind of thing, which for a dwarf is probably around 50 or so, because dwarves can live to about 350. I'm gonna make an executive decision. No, actually, I won't make an executive decision, because you're the ones who've decided everything else about Apis. So we're gonna decide right now how old Apis is in current day, as in like when episode 1 begins. How old will Apis be? I've had 50 viewers for the whole thing. Cool. Thank you all for popping along. You guys are awesome. I appreciate all that support. A lot more people can make it to midday streams, it seems, than Robert Reed's. Or it's probably actually just that Robert Reed's isn't as interesting or exciting to most people. Where's my player's handbook? Seriously, where is it? There it is. There were big chunks of backstory, yeah. But you can have a lot of backstory in a relatively short time if you've lived quite a full life. But let me read you what it says about dwarf age, and we can make an executive decision about how old Apis is. Age. It says dwarves mature at the same rate as humans. Not in my world, they don't. But they're considered young until they reach the age of 50. On average, they live about 350 years. So in my world, dwarves mature about half the rate of humans. So a 40-year-old dwarf is about as mentally and physically developed as a 20-year-old human. And likewise, if you've got a dwarf at 16, it's about the same as an 8-year-old human. So by the time they get 50, they're about a 25-year-old. And then at that point, aging slows right down so that they can live much longer than twice the length of a human. So if they are considered young until about 50, because that would be about the same age as developmentally as about a 25-year-old, and we're considered young as humans until we're well, it depends on the circumstances and the society, I guess. Most people I know would consider anyone under 25 to be young. So do we want Apis to be below 50, so coming up to 50 and therefore still young and still somewhat naive? Do we want them to be over the age of 25 equivalent, in which case they're in their 50s somewhere? Or do we want them to be in their 60s maybe, or maybe even older? Let's have a look. So people are saying we've got 42. Got 42, we've got 65, 55, 49 and a half, 45, 63, 42, 47 and 47.7. Have I got 477 followers? Bloody hell. I vote for your viewer count to be the age. 53 it says to me. A brand new adult. I quite like that, Squonk. 53 viewers currently, so 53 is the age. How do people feel about that? I think I should still put it to a poll. I'm gonna put it to a poll. We're gonna say Apis age. Ugh, can't spell, big fat fingers. Responses. I don't want them less than 45, so we'll say 45 to 50. Nope, we'll say 45 to 49, and then we'll say 50 to 54, and then we'll say 55 to 59, and then 60 to 64. Do we want more? Nah, I think that's it. There's going to be, I'll give you 2 minutes. 2 minutes to decide in that category. 2 minutes to decide on the age of Apis. They're going to be one of those. So remembering that 50 is around about the same developmental age as a 25-year-old human, and then after 50 they start the equivalence slows right down, so that they can live to about 5 times as long as a human can, give or take. Oh, it came back 50 to 54. It seems a lot of people wanted what we talked about. Yeah, 50 to 54. So we're going to say 53 because 53 viewers is technically what I've got. So Apis is going to be 53 years old. So we're on the continent of Peor. We're on the country of the Kingdom of Serentil, and we're on the island of Corintil. We're on the west side of that island. We're in a town which I wrote down and haven't gotten into my memory yet, so I keep having to refresh it. Schafguschel. And Schafguschel is a town built on a hill. Schafguschel means sheep hill, because it's a hill dwarf community, and they breed a lot of sheep there. That's their main form of income and export. The Schafguschel is on the outskirts of a large forest, a large, very old forest, very sort of magical enhanced kind of forest. Lots of fairy influence. The forest is called Giftigald. Schaf Guschel. It's spelt G-U with an umlaut S-H-E-L. Guschel. I don't know. Google doesn't tell. Google tells me it doesn't actually mean anything in German, but it's inspired by German words. Pikendi is now following. Thank you for the follow, Pikendi. It's not. So in my world, in my world, Dwarvish is inspired by German. So generally speaking, when I'm naming something in Dwarvish, I will think of what I want it to be named. I'll put it in Google Translator. I'll get German words, and then I'll shift a few letters around and make it inspired by German, but not actually German. So Giftigald. Giftigald is the name of the forest near Schafguschel. And for those who weren't there when we created Apis, Schafguschel is not going to stick around for a hell of a long time, because later on in Apis's life, something happens. Something comes from the forest, the Giftigald forest, and it destroys Schafguschel and all of Apis's family. And it becomes the reason that Apis becomes an outlander and a ranger, and makes the favoured enemy dragons, because it's a green dragon. A green dragon lives somewhere in the Giftigald forest and has destroyed Schafguschel in present day. But we are not in Giftigald forest. We are we're not in present day. I mean, we are in the past. We are somewhere around. How old do I want Apis to be at this stage? We're probably somewhere around 20 years old or so, which, remembering, that means developmentally we are about the equivalent of a 10-year-old. We're a 10-year-old child, or their equivalent, a 20-year-old, and we are raised in this village. We're having a good time. We're playing around with our. The dwarves sound Scottish, so the dwarf accent sounds Scottish, but the dwarf language is based on German. Here's some names for you. I'll put this up somewhere that you can reference later. Apis's father is named Lertrum Hive. Apis's mother is named Eldeth Hive, nee Redfist. Eldeth Hive. Apis has got an older brother called Gilras, and an older sister called Yangrit. Apis has also got a younger sister called Sada. S-A-D-A, Sada. And their favourite childhood friend, a favourite childhood friend, who is a mool. A mool being a name in my world for people who are half dwarf, half human. So they had a mool friend whose name is Lokara. And Lokara is a little bit younger than Apis. So we begin today's tale, so about 33-ish years ago in the past, with Apis playing around with the outside with Lokara, and then Lokara gets Apis gets called in by their mother Eldeth. Eldeth calls for Apis and calls them in for lunchtime, and they head inside, and you head inside your lovely house. It's an old sort of mostly sod walls and thatched roofs, but with stone lintels and stone load-bearing walls. The dwarves are very capable at mining stone and working stone and using stone in their constructions. But being that we are in a hill dwarf society and not a mountain dwarf society, stone is a little bit harder to come by, and so they supplement it with the wood from the forest, the nearby Giftigald forest. So you've been called in to have dinner with your mum and your family, and you head in there and you find that there's a pie been baked and it's delicious. You sit down at the table. You've got some side vegetables that your mum has been cooking as well, and you eat your dinner, and you wolf it down because you were in the middle of a game playing with Lokara, and you want to get back to it. And as you head back outside after eating the lunch, your mother stops you and says, "Hey, dishes, remember? You can go back and play after you finish your dishes." And so you reluctantly head back into the kitchen and you help your older brother with the dishes. And once the dishes are all cleaned up, you then finally you're free and you head back outside again. You head back outside again and you try and find Lokara to play with. And Lokara's not in the place where you left her. She must have gone back inside herself as well. So you run over to Lokara's house, about a 3-minute run from your place, and you're hopping up and down over the hills, and you get to Lokara's cottage, and you knock on the door, and there's an answer from Lokara's parents, and her father, who's a human, says, "Oh, hello, Apis. Aren't you? I thought you were playing with Lokara." And you not sure what he means by that. Doesn't seem that Lokara is home after all. You sort of ask him if she's here, and he says, "No, she was playing with you. Maybe she's at the well in town." So you turn around and you have the option. What do you want to do at this point? She could be back where you left her, playing at the edge of the wood, or she could be at the well, as her father seems to think. So how this might work, if I close everything down, got to make sure that when I do this, I've got to have Nightbot open. So let's say. So the clue, the word to decide which direction you go is going to be clue. Exclamation mark clue. CLUE. So if you say that only one time, any more than once, you get disqualified. But you find out which direction to go. And it's not only those two options, like it's an infinite number of options. If you want the ability to tell me what Apis does next, put clue in the chat. You've got about a minute or so. So what you know is that you were playing with Lokara. She's a little bit younger than you. She's 18 years old, which is the developmental equivalent of a 9-year-old. You got called inside to eat your lunch, and you had your lunch. You washed your dishes, and when you went back outside to the forest edge where she was located, she's not there. So you went to her house. Her father, human fella, told you that she's not there. She hasn't come home. He assumed that she was out still playing with you. It's basically a choose your own adventure model, yeah, but with infinite options. Alright. Who's leaving? Good night. Aquifire's leaving. Good night, Aquifire. Thanks for joining us. Alright. Oh, Grimnash! Being generous with a tier 1 sub. Thank you for the gift. Verite, or Verite. Enjoy your gifted sub. You can now have access to the channel emotes and a whole bunch of other stuff. She's not necessarily missing Macrandra, it's just that you don't know where she is right now. Alright, so roll it. Casanora25, you won the giveaway, as it were. So Casanora25, what does Apis do at this stage? Go back and look for clues. Alright, so Casanora says the Apis turns around at this point and decides to go back to the location where you last were playing with her. So you do so. Apis bids adieu to the father and turns around and runs a couple of minutes back over to the forest edge, the edge of the Giftigald forest, to the area you were playing tag before. And you're looking around. Now we're going to roll an investigation check because we're looking for clues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up I should probably just roll a real dice, shouldn't I? Can I roll in the chat, Fancy? Is that a thing I can do? Roll d20? Hey, it is. 8. Cool. And then the investigation modifier is a +3, so we got an 11. So with an 11, you can see that there are definite clues around with the. We could be rolling for tracks. Yes, we could be rolling for tracks if there are tracks, Essa. But currently there's no tracks. We're just in the area looking for clues of any kind. If the clues that we're looking for turn up tracks specifically, then it becomes a survival check. Only if it's out of a cup, so we can hear the dice. Yeah. I personally have the other dice too. What do you mean, Fancy? Oh, so I can roll a d4, right? Cool. So with an 11, you can see that there are sort of there's evidence of what you were how you were playing around before with Lokara. There was there's some discarded twigs that you were using as like swords to hit each other with, and when you were playing with that, there's a few stones lying around in the field from where you were throwing, so you know you're in the same area that you were playing around before. You were taking some throwing tests. What am I trying to say? Testing your aim. You were throwing a particular area of the tree. And let me see how likely you got an 11 on the. Yeah, you see that there are tracks that are leading away from the edge of the forest and back in towards town. So you see that there are footsteps of Lokara's that are leading towards town. Van Leer has the best dice. Oh, does he? The white ones that have got simple black spots on them. Apis' character is in the Discord. That's right. I think it's pinned in the Twitch Tales chat. So you head back. You follow the tracks as best you can. Let's see. What's your survival? +4. Probably not at this age, but sod it. So you're pretty good at the survival technique. You head into town and you see there's like a bit of a crowd of people. Not a huge crowd, but like maybe half a dozen to a dozen sort of people. And they're kind of standing around asking each other questions about what's happening. You can't really tell what they're asking until you get close. But when you do get close, you can start to hear some faint music. There's sort of like pipe music and string music. There's some very lovely kind of harps involved in things. And as you get close to the people, you can see that that's actually what they're asking each other about. They're wondering where the source of this music is. It's seemingly sourceless. That you can't quite place a direction that it's coming from. And as you're talking, as you walk closer to these people, you can hear them saying like, "So is it maybe old man Garrison's house? Like he's a bit of he used to tinker with music maybe a couple of years ago, but he hasn't done it for a while." And then a couple of the others, no, old man Garrison's out of town. He's gone over to the nearest, I don't know, some other farm. And so there's definite confusion about it. And then you can see that there's no Lokara around. Her footsteps kind of went in this general direction, but then stopped in town when there's no longer easy to track because it's very well trodden through this sort of middle part of town. Maria says the Pied Piper's come to town potentially. So what do we do at this stage? You've lost the tracks. The tracks seemed to follow from the edge of town into town. What do we do from this stage? So let's go with. Let me open up my Nightbot again. I'm gonna have to close down every other window when I actually go in with this, because otherwise I've got so many windows to choose from. I can never remember where Nightbot is. All right, cancel that. We're gonna go with the word is track. T-R-A-C-K. Track. So if you want to decide what happens at this point, never trust the pipes. The way trouble is. So you found your way back into town. You are near the well at the moment, with the people around, talking at sort of the town square, as it were, near the well, and there's no sign of the lady, of your little friend Lokara. Have we got any others? Got a few more. Is she in the well? Maybe. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hashtag. Hashtag. What do we do from this stage? What happens? What happens? Hashtag. What do we do to try and find her? Direzix is back. We're doing a test of how the game's going to run Direzix. She's playing music in the world. That's why the direction of the music's so confusing. Could be. So you're going to try and find the source of the music. All right. So I need us to make a. So what do I need? I need to be able to access the stats. I need to be able to access the stats as well as Nightbot simultaneously. Access Nightbot and stats. These are notes for me to remember before the first session starts. Close that down. I don't need that window open. Get out of here. Stats is that one. Okay, cool. So the stats, the investigation check was a +3. Survival was a +4. I'd say that this one is more of an investigation check. Or perception, perhaps. Perception or investigation, either one. We've got a +3 or a +4, so let's have a look. Extreme Gamer just came by to lurk and donate to the channel goal. Thanks for the lurking and the donation. So I'm gonna roll the 20. 13 plus 4 if it's a perception check. That's a 17. It's pretty good. That's pretty good. Hashtag. So Apis sort of moves away from the rest of the group. Going back towards the forest, the music gets quieter, and then you turn around and go back towards the people and past the people. Thank you for the follow, Banana Champion. You go back towards the people and the music gets louder, and then as you go past the people, the music gets quieter again. So you turn around, you go back and you move towards the side, towards the well, and you do this in this fashion for a little while before you pretty sure you've ascertained that the music coming from the crowd of people in the middle. And they're not just standing in one spot either. They're moving around around town trying to find the source of this music as well. And now there's probably just over a dozen people. It's started to grow a little bit from the local townsfolk who, let's face it, in medieval times don't really have a lot to do with their days. So when they're not working, which they are doing for most of their work, their life, they need entertainment in some way or another. So gossip is pretty big thing to do. So people, as they're moving around town trying to find the source of the music is seemingly moving with them. You look all around, as Casanora suggests. You look up. There's nothing odd about the sky above you. It's solid ground beneath your feet, beneath the dirt. There's no way of so you have successfully located that the people themselves are seemingly the source of the music, but there's no one among them playing instruments or anything. Marie, what did you miss? So you went in for lunch. You left your friend Lokara to play at the edge of the forest, and you after lunch she had disappeared. You couldn't see where she went, so you're trying to find her. And upon trying to find her, you went into the town centre, and there was some strange sort of eerie harp music and pipe music that was coming from near this group of people who were chatting. So, has anybody got any ideas as to what to do next? You can just pop it in the chat if you've got any ideas. Do the people look normal? They do. Yeah, they look like normal people. You recognise most of them as townsfolk. You've lived in this town for 20 years or so now, and you recognise most of these people. Or to play your panpipes. That's a good idea, Mr. Ganja Main. Let's try that. Millie Mapper suggests that as well. Play the panpipes. So you pop out your panpipes, which you're proficient with even at this age, and you start to play along, and you start to harmonise with the music. And as you do so, you start to hear a voice that's not coming from any of the dozen voices that are talking about where to go. You're starting to hear a voice that you recognize, but you're not sure how. It's a little lost under the music, but the music's getting louder. And then you exhaust all dialogue options with the NPC. Yeah. You start to hear this voice getting a little bit more distinct over the music, the better you get at like harmonizing with the music. And then you hear Lokara's voice. It's Lokara's voice. And she says, Apis, come and play with us. I found a fairy. What do you do at that point? If we now I think this is a choice for options. So let's go exclamation point voice. VOICE. We all fly down here. Exclamation point voice if you want to decide what Apis does next. So you've been looking for Lokara, and you found your way to the city, the village center where half a dozen people were talking about strange music, and you could hear it as well. It was quite faint, and then upon walking around trying to locate where this music was coming from, you realized that as the crowd was growing, so was the music, and the people were moving around, and the music was moving with them. And at that point, you get out your panpipes and you start to harmonize with the music. And as you do so, the music grows in your head, and a little voice that's underneath the music. As it gets closer and closer, you realize it's Lokara's voice, and she says, "Apis, come and play with us. I found a fairy." Broken leg. What happens next? Oh, you got in there just in time. By the looks of it, you were the last one to get the chance. Broken leg. What do you do at this point? You don't enter the chat. You don't enter the competition to decide what happens next if you don't have an idea for what you're gonna do next. What do you want to do? You're still currently in the village center. You're hearing this voice. Waiting for my next game. What do you mean? Didn't enter because I was waiting for the excellent recap. Oh, sorry, Dyrozix. For the next time you can. You just landed here. Okay, cancel, reroll. Millie mapper. Millie, what happens next? Millie, what do you do? What does Apis do? In Apis's mind, being that we decided Apis was indecisive, and what was the other traits that we gave Apis? Let me read them. Apis is cunning. Maybe I should have done this earlier. Probably should have. If I was any good at what I did, I would have probably done this earlier. Apis is cunning, resourceful, and introverted. They avoid trouble where they can. Apis will always help those in need and only kills when necessary. They will always do what they can to protect an animal in danger. And the other one isn't relevant right now. And Apis can be indecisive, inconsistent, and slow to trust. So because we said that Apis is indecisive and slow to trust, and inconsistent, you're getting all these contradictory voices in your head saying, maybe I should yell out her name, maybe I should tell the other people that I heard her voice. But ultimately you decide that you're going to just keep playing and try to get more information. Hello. So you keep harmonizing with the panpipes that you're hearing and the harp music, and you keep playing and playing. I'm going to make a performance check for Apis and see how good they are at. God, I've got so many things open still. I've closed so many things, but I've still got so many other things open. Which one is it that I need? I need the stats, which is this one, and performance is a +1. So not the greatest, Mr. Kanchamain. Just everything's a natural 20. Natural 20 or a natural 1. Roll D20. And plus, oops, nope, I question marked that by accident. Roll d20. Oh my god. Roll d20. Wait, why is it saying it can't recognize roll? What was I doing before? What have I changed? Oh, right. I'm doing a slash instead of an exclamation back. Roll d20. Don't worry, I'll get better at this. A 4. A 4 plus 1. So the performance is not the greatest. So Millie, ultimately Apis decides to keep playing. But the harp music and the sort of eerie nature to it is shifting, and there's different sounds and tones and harmonies coming into it that you're not super familiar with, because remember, we're still sort of mentally and physically the equivalent of a 10-year-old. So even though we can play the harps, it seems not very well right now. And so it's harder and harder to harmonize, and the voice gets fainter as you sort of lose track of it, and you're stressing, and you're blowing the wrong notes, and it makes it harder and harder to harmonize, and so you're not getting it. That was an intriguing slip. You think Apis is a she? No, non-binary. So I think they're somewhat fluid. I think of them as being somewhat fluid. So occasionally they take on a more effeminate role and then a more stereotypically masculine role at other times. So when I'm thinking of things like this, I guess Freudian slip wise, I think Apis is more in the female kind of role, I guess. But yeah, other times I think of them as more masculine. But yes, Apis is non-binary. You don't have brewing tools yet because you're only 20 years old. You'll have brewing. You learn how to brew later in life. This is a prequel, remember? A flashback. Do we know anything about fairies? That's a good question. Let's find out. I like non-binary too, but my mind automatically thinks he when not engaged. A place where the fairy folk live and play. Yeah, Lockin, I think you missed that this is a prequel sort of flashback episode, just to talk about something that happened in Apis' past. We are 53 in present day, so when we actually do episode 1, when we start the proper Twitch Tales, we'll be 53 years old. But in this sort of flashback of something that happened in Apis' past, we're 20 years old, which developmentally is the same as equivalent as a 10-year-old human. What was I saying? Fairies. So let's make an intelligence check or a nature check. Let's see. Nature is a +3. Pretty good. Intelligent kid. This kid. Roll a d20. Got a 16. 16 plus 3. 19. So yes, we do know quite a lot about fairies, it seems. So Apis racks the brain, hearing that their friend is playing with fairies. They know from various different stories, there'd be a lot of fairy tales told to kids about how fairies can be mischievous, they can be playful, and mostly benevolent. Well, not benevolent, but just not malevolent. They're not necessarily in it for evil deeds or anything wrong in that sense, but they have a different sense of morals. Let's put it that way. We know that fairies are quite happy to trick you, and even if it's like mean-spirited, they don't mean it to be mean-spirited, but they don't really care if you think of it that way. They benign? Yeah, they're benign. I think that's a good way of putting it. Thanks, Wraith. They're generally benign. They don't mean you ill, but they don't care if you get hurt or whatever by means of their pranks. They've got a different idea of morals. You also know that from the fairy stories that they tend to live in ancient forests and old forests and fairy forests, particularly near like turbulent streams. And so you have an idea that Apis' first thought is that if indeed Lokara has found a fairy, she probably would have found it in the forest. Can you play a game to win her back? Maybe. I must surrender now because I can't stay awake any longer. Thank you, Svana, for joining us. Appreciate your support. Never mess with the small folk, that's right. So, we think that the music route is not gonna work. So let's say, what are we going to do next time? Let's go with, I think it's been long enough that we can use choice again. Have we even used choice? I don't know. So exclamation mark choice if you want to decide what Apis does now. CHOICE, choice. Apis is getting lots of ideas running through the head. What should we do? How should we find Lokara? Should we go to the forest? Should we play the pipes in the forest to keep them close? What should we do? Apis has never met a fairy themselves, but they know that they exist. They know they are real, and they know that they know a lot about them because of fairy stories. Hey, check out Nightbot putting something up automatically. I guess that's working now. That's good. I overslept, but I'm here now. No worries, Dadius. Thanks for joining us. I'll give you a quick recap in a moment. The music does not have a direction. No, it came most strongly from the people who are discussing where the music's coming from, which now probably number about 15 to 18 people, and they're kind of getting a little bit more frantic about trying to find where the hell this music's coming from, because the more people that join this group, the stronger the music gets. So, roll it. Holy Heretic. What happens now? What do we do? Where does the story go from here? What's the choice? To give you a recap, Dadius, was it Dadius that just arrived? Yeah. To give you a bit of a recap, we're just doing a sort of prequel episode, a very brief story about something that happened in Apis's life. About 30 years ago, when they were about 20 years old, they were out playing with a friend of theirs who was 18 years old, and developmentally that's the equivalent of us being about 10 and your friend being about 9. And then you got called in to have some lunch, and by the time you came back, your friend was gone, and so you're now looking for where your friend has gone. And there's some mysterious music happening in the town centre. And as you started to play your panpipes in harmony with this music, a voice in your head, with the voice of your friend, said, "Hey, Apis, come and play with us. I found a fairy." And now we're deciding what to do from there. Holy Heretic says, "Animal handling. Can we get an animal friend to help us?" We can absolutely try that. So, we decide at this point that if she has found a fairy to play with, you know that she could potentially be in danger if this fairy tries some sort of trick or playful joke or practical joke that actually turns awry. The fairy won't necessarily care for Lokara's health and well-being, and she could get hurt potentially. So you think, oh, I should go and help. I should go and help her. And where do I find fairies? Probably in the forest. So you run back towards the forest edge, where she came from, and you wonder why were the footsteps going the other way from the forest? But for the time being, you think it's not important. I just need to find her. So you pop into the forest and you try to find an animal to help us. So there's plenty of animals around. Eventually, let's have a look. I didn't see your greeting message. Sorry, Miss Bowman. Welcome. So we're going to roll a d20, and we're going to add our a 5. Ugh. Roll a d20, we add our modifier for animal handling, which is a +4, so a 9. It's not as bad as a 5, it's just below average. So you find let's say a squirrel. You find a squirrel, and it's eating nuts and things, and you approach it in a way that is normally very friendly to squirrels. You're a little bit more abrupt with it than you would normally be if given the time, but you're starting to get a little bit panicked. But thankfully the squirrel seems to not worry too much. You're pretty good with animals. It kind of starts a little bit and goes a little bit up the tree, but not far enough that it's out of your reach. You're still kind of gentle with it. Somebody name it, quick. Thanks, Ajo. No worries. Enjoy the rest of your day. Squonkle. Squonkle the squirrel. You befriend this squirrel, and you don't I don't think you have any way of let's see. You don't have any ability to speak with squirrels, like directly, and you're not at this stage. You're only the equivalent of a 10-year-old. You're not a ranger at this point, so you don't have ranger spells. But you do have Sylvan. So you at this point you've been learning in your studies at school. You've been learning various different languages. You know Common, you know Draconic, you know Dwarvish. Um, well, you know Common and Dwarvish, and you are learning Sylvan and Draconic. And you speak to this squirrel in Sylvan, which you know to be sort of the language of the fairies and the language of animal kind. Animals don't necessarily speak Sylvan, but they are more inclined to be able to understand people if you are speaking to them in Sylvan. The squirrel smacks your face with its tiny paw. Wrong squirrel, Squonk. Wrong lever. So you speak to this squirrel, asking about if they've seen your friend, and it kind of cocks its head, and then it circles down the tree, and it starts to shoot off deeper into the forest, and you have an idea that maybe it's leading you. So you set off towards it. Have you seen a little girl or a fairy? You ask, and it sets off down the tree in that direction. We should definitely try Draconic first. The squirrel fucking takes off, screams and runs away. Squeak squeaker, squeak squeaking. Man, I love that film. So you follow this squirrel. I'm going to see if you can keep up with it by making a, where is it? Perception check. I'm going to make a perception check to see if you can keep up with it before it disappears from your... Oops, I was going to type exclamation mark perception. That would be cool. Maybe I can set that up. Maybe I can set that up as a command that I can use. Is there a way... Fancy, is there... Fancy's probably asleep at this point. Anybody who's aware with Nightbot, do you know if there's a way for me to have commands that only I can use? Because I could set up a command for all of the different skill checks, and then I could just go exclamation mark perception. Oh, Fancy isn't asleep. Why are you not asleep, Fancy? You can do that. Awesome. I mean, set up the command and then don't tell us. Yeah, but you can say exclamation mark commands, and then you can see all of the commands that I have. That would be cool, Fancy. I will ask you how to do that. I wouldn't expect you to put in all of that work, because that's a lot of... It's like 15 different skill checks. But it would be cool, I think, to have a command where I can just say acrobatics, and it'll do it for me. But we would never look under the commands, honestly. I'm just going to make a note, commands for skills, rather than rolling and then looking up the skill and then adding it and saying, don't worry if you have to go, guys, it's fine. I understand. You're in different parts of the world where it's crazy o'clock in the morning. I love making true. That is true. That is something that you do. You love making Nightbot commands almost as much as you love graphs. Millie's singing Fancy a lullaby. What are you singing? What's the lullaby? Is it look at this stuff, isn't it sweet? That's why there's like 40 of them. Where was I? So you have found you're keeping up with the squirrel. That's what it was. Can you keep up with the squirrel? Apparently not, because I can't even keep up with the chat. D20 plus perception. Where's my... There it is. 18 plus 4 perception. You can definitely see where this squirrel goes. The llamas are from Peru. Oh, okay. You keep up with this squirrel as it's darting through the trees. You're getting quite deep into the woods now, and at this point you realise it's getting like... For a start, you're not 100% sure that this squirrel understood what you meant and is actually showing you to the place where your friend is. Secondly, this is probably getting to the point where you're deeper into this wood than you've been before, and you've been told many a time growing up that it's a dangerous wood and you shouldn't go exploring in it on your own. So I'm going to ask for another check to see if you guys want to continue on into this woods or not, because it could be a potentially dangerous thing to do. So I'm going to say exclamation mark wood, WOOD, if you want to decide whether you continue following this squirrel or whether you do something else at this stage. It's not case sensitive, so it doesn't matter whether it's capitalized or not. Cave Squonk, who plays a squirrel in my Discord roleplay server, is telling us not to trust squirrels. Holy Heretic says deeper into danger. Because a part of Apis' mind is telling them to go deeper into danger. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll it. Banana Champion. That's a name I don't recognize. How are you doing, Banana Champion? You get to decide where do we go next. Do we continue following this squirrel? Do we head back towards town? Do we head somewhere else in the woods? Do we start playing our panpipes? Do we call out her name at full volume, trying to grab her? What do we do at this point? Casanora says leave a trail, so a part of Apis' mind says to leave a trail. Banana Champion. Ultimately, Apis decides to go back and visit the old man who used to play the music. He might be connected to the fairies. Okay. Alright, why not? So Apis decides all of these different ideas. Should we go? Should we follow the squirrel? Should we not? I shouldn't go into the forest on my own. It's dangerous. And turns around and starts to head back the way you came. I'm gonna make a survival check to see if you remember the way out, because now you're relatively deeper into the woods. So survival's a +4. So roll d20. Natural 20 +4. So yes, you remember the way out perfectly. Boom! It must be your Outlander background that you haven't quite got yet. But you decide to head back and follow your way back to the town. And as you do so, the music completely disappears. You head out of the woods and you head into town, and you see that the people have kind of dispersed now, and as has the music. You take even takes a shortcut. You head over to the old man Jennings, or whatever the hell I called him. Came up with it on the spot. Old man Jennings, we'll say. And you head over to the old man's house. You were told that you did overhear rather that the old man was out of town for the time being, over at the next town over. Music and the people have all dissipated from the town square now. You head over to the old man's house and you see that the shutters on his lower floor story is open. His door is unlocked. Most cranky old man Jennings. And so, yeah, that you can let yourself into his house if you want, or you can wait to see if he comes back today, or you can ask around for an adult if old man is coming back today. You can go in. What do we want to do? We're at the old man Jennings' house. You heard that he used to play music like this, kind of like panpipe, harpsichord kind of music. Harpsichord, isn't that the right word? And so we've got options. What do we want to do at this stage? I will say, what's the code word going to be for this one? It's going to go, it's going to be old. Exclamation mark old. O-L-D. Part of your brain is saying to go into his house. A part of your brain is saying to just peer through the window and see. Other people are saying to, other parts of the brain are saying to yell out his name, or break and enter, kick down the door. Apis has got all these decisions running through their mind. But what do they ultimately do? We'll find out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. L. Brown, what happens? What does Apis ultimately decide to do? Standing outside old man Jennings' house. L. Brown, Lisa. Lisa. Old man Jennings is currently out of town. His door is unlocked. We are standing at the edge of town. Apis ultimately decides that they're going to investigate through the windows rather than alert old man Jennings, who, remember, is out of town. So, looking through the windows, peering in through the window, you can see that the torches and things, the candles are all off. It's fairly dark in there, and it's cold. Like the fire hasn't been lit. So you decide to let yourself in. Apis lets themselves in through the front door, and has a look around. You can see that you've never been into Old Man Jennings' house. You know that they're a little bit odd. They're a little bit creepy. There's something just a little bit off about Old Man Jennings. Not in like a dangerous way at all. Just in a way that you just don't understand. You see that it's a bit cluttered in here. Old Man Jennings seems to be some kind of a hoarder, not to a major extent, but they keep a lot of items that other people would throw away. There's kind of like old papers and like lots of broken things, broken pots and crockery and weird items that you don't recognize. There's some like stones, various different shaped stones, just simple stones, not even gemstones. Bit of a weirdo. You walk around a bunch of this stuff, and you see in the corner there's music. There's musical instruments. Oh, Old Man Jennings is a few from a few Scooby-Doo shows. I would have got away with it too. In the corner are some musical instruments. There's a harp, and you see next to the harp is some pipes, some panpipes, and next to those there's also a flute, all standing up in relatively good condition. They've been kept important to Old Man Jennings, it seems. They're dusty, haven't been used in a while, but they are definitely important to him from how he's left them standing in his room. A kind of pride of place in the corner. Maybe he hoards people. There's also a back room where his kitchen is. So you walk through there and you see that the kitchen is just as cluttered. All kinds of pots and pans and cups and crockery and things. Nothing out of the ordinary or untoward. And then there's an upstairs area as well, so you can head upstairs if you want. What do you guys think we should do? Wraith says, play the instruments to bring back the fairies. Casanora says, play the panpipes again now. Just play other people's instruments. Why not? Does he have a basement? Let's see. Would he have a basement? No, probably not. Although he might have a coal. He might have a. He probably out the back of his house probably has a coal shed or like a wood shed for keeping keeping firewood. But he wouldn't have a basement. In for a penny, in for a pound. Snurt says go upstairs. What are other people saying? If there's dust on the instruments, you may know someone's played them. Exactly. Alright, seems like we've got a lot of different choices coming up, so we're going to have to make a choice. Cave Squawk's going to bed. No worries. Thank you for popping along. Rummage through the drawers, because why not? Go to the shed, check the shed, rob the fridge. All people saying all different things, so Apis is starting to get to a point where the voices are getting too much to decide. They're not consenting on one particular consenting. They're not. What's the word? They're not. What's the opposite of dissenting? It's not consenting. Is the squirrel gone? Oh yeah, we left the forest ages ago, Holy Heretic. We decided to stop following the squirrel because it was going too deep into the woods, and we weren't 100% sure that the squirrel was even leading us anywhere. So we decided to turn around and go back to Old Man Jennings' house and talk to him, because he used to play similar music. This time it's going to be B and E. BNE. That's the keyword. Exclamation point BNE for breaking and entering. BNE. Apis doesn't have multiple personalities per se, but they do have lots of dissenting voices in their head about what they should do. Lots of different Jiminy Crickets, lots of different consciences and things that all kind of speak at once and they decide. So I'd say it's more likely to be schizophrenia than multiple personalities, because schizophrenia is where you're hearing voices, right? Or partly. That's BNE. BNE. Breaking and entering. BNE. So yeah, Apis has got interesting. It's not a diagnosable disorder. It's not to that level, but they're very inconsistent with their thought patterns and very what other word was used? Inconsistent and indecisive. Yeah. Look for a diary. Yeah, that could be a thing. That's another voice saying, oh, I should look for a diary. I should go upstairs. I should go through to the kitchen. I should rummage through their drawers. I should play the instruments. I should check the shed. All these different voices all deciding what to do. But ultimately, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ultimately, Dadius, what happens? What does Apis decide to do ultimately? Not even Apis knows what Apis can do next. Absolutely. Tell an adult that a kid's been taken. Yep, that's another option. But Dadius, you have the deciding voice right now. What does Apis do? You're currently standing in the lounge, the sitting room, the dining room, all rolled into one, kind of an open plan room. The lounge of Old Man Jennings, I think I said. Old Man Jennings' house, who's a little bit odd, a little bit on the odd side, but he's currently out of town for the day. Apis ultimately decides to look at the instruments to see about the dust. So Apis decides to walk over to these instruments, and you recognise, because you're proficient in pan flutes yourself, you're proficient in that sort of music. Let me have a little look, see if it's only panpipes that you can play proficiently. So you head over to check them out, and you recognise, because you're proficient in pan flutes, that you're pretty good at, you've got a pretty good ear for music, and you can tell that the music that was being played before was ultimately made of 3 instruments: a harp, pan flutes, and a proper flute as well. And these are the 3 instruments that you see in front of you now. They're definitely dusty enough to say that they haven't been used for at least a year. They haven't been used or moved for at least a year. And if you were to play them, you would most likely disturb the dust quite significantly. So it would be clear to something that someone's played them. So that's what you can tell from the dust there, Dadius, that the music relates to the music being played here. I'll say that as well while you're here. Actually, let's make an investigation check and see if. Let's make an investigation check, which is for you a +3, 16, 19. All right. So with a 19, as you're investigating the dust and things on these things, you can see that there is writing inscribed on the sides of these instruments, and the instruments all seem to be of the same make. They seem to have been made by the same people, or the same instrument maker. They have the same sort of style to them, and they all have the same writing inscribed into them, which seems to be written in Sylvan, a language you do understand, or at least you are learning. You read these words, and it seems to be the language of the fairies, and it says there is much to learn. It says on one of them, and then on another it says wield this power responsibly, and then on another it says have fun. Lorquin, I'm determined to get to 4 a.m. Jeez, crazy. So, what do we do now? I'm gonna say music! Exclamation point music. What happens now? So if you want to decide what we do at this point, now that we've read this on these instruments, you can choose. You can write exclamation point music, and then you can decide potentially, if you are chosen from the draw, you can choose which direction this goes. You're in Old Man Jennings' house. Your friend Lokara's disappeared. You heard some creepy sort of fairy music, and now you've found instruments that have not been played in a couple of years maybe, but they definitely seem to be relevant. 3 instruments. No worries, Marie. Thank you for the follow, John Ross 42. I appreciate that support. Harp, a panpipe, and flute. That's right. Alright, last chances to put in exclamation point music. 3, 2, 1, and Holly. Holly V8359. What do we do at this point? The harp is a full-size harp. Unless they're like way bigger than I'm imagining. Actually, I think they are pretty massive, aren't they, harps? I'll say it's a medium-sized harp. Play Old Man Jennings panpipes. Excellent. Alright, so knowing how to play panpipes yourselves, you go for the instruments that that you know how to actually, that you have proficiency in playing. So you take the one that says have fun is not the panpipes. The one that says play responsibly is the panpipes, and you wield this power wield the power responsibly, or whatever I said. So you take the panpipes and you dust off the dust from them. You pick them out of the stand that they're on, and then you start to play. And you start to play as best you can the melody that you were hearing before. Over 1 meter tall. Oof, yeah, maybe not a full size harp then. So you start to play this panpipe, and as soon as you do so, there is a sort of a dust of it comes out the bottom of the pipes as you're playing them. This sort of green dust comes out, and it starts to swirl, and then the dust from around it starts to swirl, and then you start to be doing some sort of magic with this item, and it you feel the music of the other two instruments kick up as well and start to play. You look across at them, and the harp itself is not it's not moving. The strings aren't being plucked. But the talking about stealing a full-size harp behind the back. The instruments aren't playing, but the music is strong. You can hear them. The magic kicks it into a dust of a swirl that starts to swirl into this vortex until eventually it sort of gets closer and closer knit until in the center of it, about a foot tall, and maybe about half a foot tall, a tiny little man in green clothing with wings fluttering, just hovering in the air, appears and turns and says to you, "Let's go, of course, get a scanner mask," which you know in Sylvan to be something along the lines of, You're not Old Man Jennings. Who are you?" You say, and then what do you say? You see it. You've just summoned a fairy, so that it's going to be exclamation point fairy, Fairy, Fairy. That's the thing. If you want to decide, what do we do? Do we attack the fairy? Do we speak to it? Do we stop playing? Do we continue playing? If you want to decide what we do next, what Apis does next, exclamation point fairy, Fairy. War Cleric is a good choice, Fangadan. Yep, War Clerics are good ones. Capture the fairy and feed it bugs. Why not? Alright, you get to choose 3, 2, 1, and roll. Dyrazix. Dyrazix gets to choose what does Apis decide to do once they've played these panpipes and conjured a fairy. Marie, what did you miss? We are in Old Man Jennings' house trying to work out where this music was coming from and why it was important. You found 3 instruments that seemed to be the same instruments that were playing the weird music before. You decided to play the panpipes, and as you did so, you conjured a fairy that turns to you in Sylvan, says, "You're not Old Man Jennings, who are you?" You say, What else, Darazix? What happens? What do you say? You state that Old Man Jennings hasn't been here for a while, and I was curious about the music in the woods. So this is the first time this has come up. It was something I was wondering a little bit about before the stream. I was wondering whether it's better for me to leave Apis as kind of a voiceless protagonist in the same way as like a lot of video games do, where you don't actually hear what they sound like, so that you can put your own voice into them, and you're better at putting yourself on the protagonist's uh, in the protagonist's shoes, projecting your own voice onto them effectively. Or is it better for when Apis speaks to somebody? Is it better for me to actually put on a voice for Apis, which sort of solidifies Apis as having whatever voice I choose for Apis, kind of thing? What do you guys think? Oh my god, Apis is going to sound like this. It's not going to happen. Apis Hive. Is Apis a player on Apiary? Yes, it is, Fangadon. It's something that hasn't come up yet and won't until the main session. But Apis eventually will have a companion who is a bee, a giant bee. And because it's a hive mind, we were considering hive and bees and all along that sort of side of things. And Apis is the Latin word for bee. Depends on the accent. Well, Apis is Scottish, so it would be no. Apis is Dwarvish, so the accent would be Scottish of some kind. So Apis, if I was to give Apis a voice, it would be a type of Scottish accent. Maybe that's a good point. Maybe I should do a poll. I will go with starting a poll, and we can decide. Should I voice Apis? No. Leave it third person. Or yes. Do a Scottish voice. And you get 2 minutes to decide on that choice. Man, I'm hungry. I'm now just remembering that I didn't eat dinner last night, because often when I'm DMing I don't prioritize correctly, and so I had to prepare for the session that I was running yesterday, and I didn't eat beforehand leading up to it, because I had this whole bloody. In fact, did I eat lunch yesterday? I must have. Oh yeah, I ate something. Yeah, that's right. I ate lunch when I was out. Yeah, I had a whole flood to deal with, so the whole day was ruined. And then I just didn't have time to prepare for the session that I was doing yesterday, so I didn't eat dinner, and then I got there at 6, and I went until 1 in the morning, and didn't get home until 2, so I didn't want to eat at that point. And then this morning I slept in, and then I didn't have time to prepare for this session, so I didn't eat breakfast. So I haven't eaten since lunchtime yesterday, so about 24 hours ago. Should probably go and get something to eat at some point. Diresix! Exclamation point eat. Alright, so we're still voting on that poll. You've got a minute to decide. Am I going to leave Apis as anything Apis talks or says? Am I going to just narrate it third person wise, or am I going to speak it aloud, like actually perform it? Because I want you guys to be Apis. It's your decisions. You're making the choices for Apis. I'm just narrating what happens, but you're deciding for Apis. So if I take on the voice and perform it, it feels a little bit odd in my way, but at the same time, it might be better for the people who aren't actively in the chat and are instead just listening to it, a bit like an audiobook. I don't know. There are plenty of voices for me to voice, so you'll still get lots of voices, I'm sure. Whereas for a horror thriller, first person puts you in their shoes and brings that scare factor. Can I hear Apis demo? Sorry, I didn't see that in time. But you've heard me doing plenty of Scottish voices before. You've heard plenty of Scottish voices. And the vote came back, yes, do a Scottish voice. So with 65% of the vote, about 2/3 of you wanted me to voice Apis, so that's what I'll be doing. I can ask again at a future date to see if the decision has changed, but for now, whenever we decide that Apis says something or does something that requires me to have a conversation with somebody, I will put on a Scottish voice, and I will try to be Apis as best I can. Decision made. Democracy! How many options were there meant to be? I thought you said 3, I'm only seeing 2. No, there were only 2. Either third person or not. Third person or first person. I almost died laughing when Rowan called the frog a cunt in that last D&D session. I don't remember him doing that. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You're bullshit. You're bullshit. This is bullshit. It was fun. Alright, so all of that was to see whether or not I was gonna say what Dyrazix says I should say. So Dyrazix says to the fairy who appears and says, "You're not Old Man Jennings, who are you?" And Apis replies, "Old Man Jennings hasn't been here for a while. I was just curious about the music in the woods. There's been music playing in the town and in the woods, and it seems to be played by similar things. Are you a fairy?" I'm fine with either way. I think the many varying contributors. Yeah, absolutely. Gotta grab a bottle for the baby. No worries. We'll roast you later tonight if you don't eat, Rob. I will eat, but I'm in the middle of a game. Shush. I can. Probably 100% for Rob should eat. No, we're in the middle of a game. I'm only 3 hours into a session. It's nothing. We'll be here when you return. No, it's not happening. I'm not eating. Not until I've finished. So you say, Old Man Jennings hasn't been here for a while. I was just curious about the music. And the fairy says, "Oh, you heard the music. Oh, I guess someone must be having fun. If there's music playing, then there's someone playing with one of us. We play when you play. If you want, I can take you to them." And you say, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I can deliver you some food, Rob. You don't need to do that, Circus Assassin. I've got food here. I'll go and make myself a sandwich after the stream. Thank you for the offer, though. Hun, if you're drinking with us, line your stomach. Yeah, true. Oh yeah, shit, that's tonight, isn't it? Don't shush me. Don't shush me. I will shush you. I am the dictator. I'm the mayor, and I will shush. So you say, yeah, if you wouldn't mind taking us to it, do you know who's playing? Is it my friend Lokara? And the fairy says, I don't know who's playing, but I know where they play. I can take you to them. Follow me. And pops out of the door. Just flitters and flies out of the door. And you put the panpipes back and you head out the doorway. And like a flash, it's even quicker than the squirrel. Heads back towards the forest edge. And as it approaches the forest edge, it stops and says, "What am I doing? There's a much quicker way." And then it snaps its fingers and like a sparkle of green dust out of its hand, which it then swirls around and puffs right into your face. And you get hit by this green energy, and the entire vision goes into like this light emerald sort of color, which then tunnels back down into a normal vision, and suddenly you're standing in a forest clearing. Too late, I'm afraid, Millie. Apis is chasing the green fairy. Yeah, that's right. And suddenly you're in a forest clearing within the forest, and you can hear the same music, and it's loud, and you can see that there's actual instruments playing it now. Around the edges are a bunch of fairies playing these very small versions of the three instruments that you were hearing, and in the middle you can see dancing Lokara, and she's just dancing in the middle of this clearing, surrounded by about 30 or so fairies, all playing versions of this instrument. You also notice that at the head of this sort of semicircle of fairies, at the sort of the center of it, is a very small dragon, about yay big, about the size of a cat. It's a, let me get this right because somebody will pick me up on it. You see, it's sort of a deep orange sort of a color is this dragon. It's only about the size of a cat, but it's all curled up, and it's just watching, and kind of its head is bobbing a little bit. And now the other fairy goes, "Ah, I brought you another one to play with," and then he goes off and kind of joins the others, and he's just like dancing among the outer semicircle. So, what do we do at this point? It is quite a cute little dragon. It's got this kind of appearance to it. Its face is a little bit kind of malevolent. It kind of looks like that, but orange in appearance. My book survived the flood. Yeah, that one did. Yeah. Thankfully, one of the more magazine-like books, the softback books, had kind of it slipped down in the bag, and the other books were resting on it, so that the bottom book was fucked, but the rest of them survived it, thankfully. It looks cute in the way that it's kind of curled up cat-like, but its face is not very cute in appearance. You do speak some Draconic, not a lot of Draconic, because the Draconic comes later in Apis's life when the incident with the Green Dragon happens, and destroys the town, and then then you'd make it your goal to find and kill that bloody dragon that killed all your family, and that's when you put the real effort into learning Draconic. But you speak a few words of Draconic at this stage. So, definitely a situation where you have to decide what's happening. So, let's put in exclamation point dance, D-A-N-C-E, if you want to make a decision for what Apis does at this stage. You've just been led to the forest by a fairy, and then fairy travelled to the middle of a clearing you don't recognize. It's very, very heavily wooded, though. The trees are quite close together, so you know that it's very dense forest. And in the center of this clearing is your friend Lokara, 18-year-old dwarf woman, or dwarf girl at this stage, because she's on the equivalent of being a 9-year-old human. She's just dancing away. She doesn't seem to notice you, doesn't seem to care. She's just dancing to this music that's very loud at this point, because there's just all these fairies playing around with it. Alan, if I could be so bold as to request some light refreshment. Essa says, try to get Lokara out of the dance. Macrancho's, where the hell was I? Now I'm in a forest surrounded by fairies? What's happened? Ask Lokara what she's doing, get Lokara and dance the way out of the forest. I'm just gonna dance over here. Run! All of these thoughts are going through Apis's mind, but which one does Apis do? 3, 2, 1, roll it. Circus Assassin! You get to decide what happens now, Circus Assassin. Invisifer, hi, welcome. If you've just arrived, you're arriving halfway through a session. Let's see what I can recap. You are a dwarf, and you are the equivalent of a 10-year-old human. You were out playing with your friend one day. You went home for lunch for a second, and when you came back, she was gone. You found some mysterious music. You tracked it to an old man's house, and you started playing some panpipes that you found in his living room. That conjured a fairy. You said, "Hey, fairy, what? I'm missing my friend." And the fairy said, "I can take you to them." And then it puffed some fairy dust into your eyes, which fast travelled you to a forest clearing, where you are now surrounded by fairies playing tiny versions of the instruments, and there is a little fairy dragon about the size of a cat, just curled up on one branch, looking and watching. And Apis's mind is going crazy. Apis is your name. Apis's mind is going crazy, thinking about all the things that you should do, but ultimately you decide to call out to Lokara and try to get her attention. Lokara! Lokara, how'd you get here? You shout out. And Lokara sort of turns around and recognizes you for the first time. She's got a very glazed expression on her face, kind of like somebody who's completely out of it on drugs of some kind. She's just dancing, and she says, "Oh, Apis, it's good to see you. I'm glad you could make it. Look, I've found some fairy friends. They want to dance with me. Isn't it beautiful, the music?" And she doesn't answer the question about how she got here. She just seems out of it and enjoying the dance. Let's make what's your medicine modifier? +2. So I'm going to roll a medicine check. Roll D20. Oops, I've done it again. / Oops, I did it again. Roll D20. Rolled a 9. 9 plus 2 is an 11. Lokara is 18 in dwarf years. She's 18 years old properly, but developmentally and physically, that is about the equivalent of a 9-year-old human. So with an 11 medicine check, as Lokara's sort of answering you and dancing, you can see that she's showing signs of muscular exhaustion. She seems to have been dancing for quite a while now, but she doesn't seem to be tiring of it. She's still just dancing, but she's dancing in kind of a sloppy way that is out of time with the music, which would indicate that she's just been dancing non-stop for a while. Um, I need you guys as Apis Hive to roll a wisdom saving throw at this point. I think I will roll for it like this because it'll be easier than getting 1,000 rolls and trying to like average them. Because in fact, doing it that way would always average out to a 10.5 anyway. So I will roll a d20 and I will add my wisdom saving throw. That's a 14, and you can see wisdom on that side. You can see wisdom is a +2 to the saving throw. So we got a 16 total. So you feel like, yeah, it is actually pretty nice music, and yeah, it is. It would be pretty nice to dance to this. And then you think, no, it's not time to dance. I don't want to dance right now. There's a weird time dilation, a weird fey time dilation. Yeah. Locken's disappearing, are they? All right. See you later, Locken. Thank you. See you then for Never Have I Ever. See you later. I'm interested in book series about dragons, which cover a little dragon mythology. I'm always interested in that sort of stuff in Visitor. If it's in public domain, I'd be able to read it on Robert Reed's. Otherwise, I might just read it in my own time if I get the chance, which is probably never going to happen. Let's be honest. But I'm always interested in giving it a go. So you notice that she's been dancing a long time. She's not responded to like how she got here. She seems to be out of it, just dancing and having fun. She seems to genuinely be enjoying herself, but and you feel compelled to start dancing, and then you shake out of it and say, no, I don't. Now's not the time to dance. So what do we do at this point? Let's say, Fae. So exclamation point F-A-E, Fae. Exclamation point F-A-E if you want to decide what Apis does now. The baby isn't going to bed. I'll try and put her down quick and be back. Remember, what would Apis do? Absolutely, what would Apis do? That's a good point, Dyrazix. I should also read you out in case you're new or you've forgotten. I'll read you out the personality traits, the ideals and the bonds and the flaws of Apis Hive, and then you can think not just what I would do in that situation, but what would Apis do in that situation. Apis is cunning, resourceful, and introverted. They avoid trouble where they can. They will always help those in need and only kill if necessary. Will always do what they can to protect an animal in danger. And Apis can be indecisive, inconsistent, and slow to trust. So keep those things in mind when you're deciding what's Apis going to do next. What would they do? If they are cunning, resourceful, and introverted, and avoid trouble where they can, if they always help those in need and only kill when necessary, and if they always do anything they can to protect an animal in danger, and if they are indecisive, inconsistent, and slow to trust, what would it mean? What would they do? Invisifer, down. He's so distracted to notice me mugging him. Yeah, man, you're mugging me all the time. I'm seeing those muggings, those attempted muggings. It's not good for your health. All right, so let's catch it up. What was it? 3, 2, 1. Miss Bowman. Miss Bowman, what does Apis do at this stage? Lokara's dancing. Hey, Apis, it's nice to see you could join us. I found some furry friends. What do you do? What does Apis do, Miss Bowman? Try to befriend the little dragon and help us escape the Fae. That thought passes through the mind. Throw Lokara over your shoulder and look for an exit. That thought passes through Apis's mind. Nicely ask the fairies if she can leave, and if not, why. So you turn to the fairies and say, is Lokara allowed to leave? And the fairies say, and then they turn and look across to they're all sort of, what's the word? Diverting attention? That's not right. They're all directing your attention to the one in the middle, the fairy dragon. And the dragon says, what languages do they speak? Draconic and Sylvan. Which would they speak in? Probably Sylvan. The fairy dragon lifts up the head and says, your friend can leave whenever she wants. If she wants. And then puts its head back down again. As it puts its head back down, it says, but why don't you join her in the dance? It's fun. So, theoretically, she can leave whenever she wants. Ask nicely if they leave. Explain to the Fae she needs to go home now. Make bad music to counteract the magic. Good do. So, the dragon says that she can leave whenever she wants, if she wants to. Let's go with exclamation point Fey, spelled in the other way, F-E-Y. F-E-Y. Exclamation point Fey, F-E-Y. So Lokara's dancing. She can leave, apparently, if she wants to. Lots of ideas pop through Apis' mind. What do we do? What do we do? Do we try and convince her that she needs to leave? Do we start to play bad music to try and counteract it? Do I cover her ears so she can't hear the music? Do I slap her? Do I just take her by the hand and say, let's go home, Lokara? You can dance if you must, but we can go. You did not take Old Man Jennings' panpipes. You put them back. Isn't it beautiful music? Five, four, three, two, one. Invisifer. What do we do in Invisifer? What does all of these thoughts racing through Apis' mind? What do they ultimately decide to do? I can't vote, but I'll be listening as I'm at work. No worries, Dadius. Appreciate your support. So you say as Maria said. Maria said to take Lokara's hand. Let's go home, Lokara. You can keep dancing. All right. So you walk over to your friend and you take Lokara by the hand and you say, "Hey, Lokara, let's go home. You can keep dancing if you want, but we should go now." And Lokara says, "Oh no, I've only just got here. I'm only just started dancing like a minute ago. Let's just keep dancing for a little bit more, just a few more minutes." I'm gonna need a persuasion check. It's gonna be a contested check here. What are our panpipes made of? Please say iron. Let's see. What would our we live on the edge of a forest and not near a mine, so I'm afraid the panpipes that we have would probably be made of wood, because we would have had them made by someone around the town. Maybe even Old Man Jennings made them. So I'm gonna roll a persuasion check. So roll d20, plop like that. Ah, natural 1. Oh wait, did I? No, I rolled a d20, not a d2. So natural 1. Apparently it's not going to work. I guess it is a contested check, so there's a chance that they roll a natural 1 also. Our persuasion's a +1, so we got a 2. Versus roll d20. There's a very slim chance that it could still work. Which check am I working? I'm going against the wisdom check with this one. No, 10. 10 plus 9. Yeah, alright. So you say, let's go, and Lokara says, no, I think I'm going to stay a few more minutes. Just join me for the dance. Join me for the dance. You can still hear the music, and you still feel a little bit of compulsion to start dancing as well. But because we succeeded on the wisdom save the first time, we are immune to the effect of it for at least a while. So you're kind of like, we can keep dancing, but we really have to go. And the persuasion's just failed, it seems. On top of that, the dragon says, she has to want to go. She doesn't want to go, so she's not gonna go. and then it puts its head back down onto the side and watches. Don't you like the music? So what do we do at this point? We tried to persuade her. It failed. Do not join! It's a trap! They're working for someone else or something. Hijack the cart. There's no cart. What cart are we hijacking? Someone needs to slap some sense into her. She's in danger. What should we choose? What should we try next? Let's go with... Cancel that one. Let's go with... music. I think we used that before, but why not? Exclamation point music if you want to decide what Apis does. Through the mind of Apis, she's starting to get a little bit... Apis is starting to get a little bit panicky now. They realise that all the stories of fairies being tricky and difficult, that it's coming through the mind, and you've never seen Lokara sort of be this out of it before, this sort of glazed expression. So it's difficult. You need to decide what to do and fast. You realise you're in a potentially dangerous situation. You have the idea to maybe I should cover her ears, maybe I should slap her, maybe I should play the pipes even more beautifully than they are to make Lokara want to dance to our music instead. So smoke grenade. Maybe you should fashion a smoke grenade out of something. Convince the fairies to hand over their panpipes. All these thoughts are going through your mind. You're not sure what to do. Thank you for the hydrate, Alan. Who's trying to mug me in Visifur, hitting on me? Apis decides maybe she's going to grab the hand and try and pull her away from the dance. 3, 2, 1, roll it. Mr. Ganjamain. What are you doing, Mr. Ganjamain? And I'm going to say right now it's not a smoke grenade. What does Mr. Ganjamain decide for Apis? Could play bad music, could play good music. What's it going to be? Play bad music. Play the music backwards. Ooh, okay. Yeah, why not? Let's try it. Okay. So, you decide at this point, oh, maybe I could reverse the spell with some panpipes. And you pull out your panpipes, and it's going to definitely require an intelligence check here to see if you can play. While music is playing, you're able to pick out the notes in reverse and then play them over the top of music already entering your ears, and trying to discern how this is going to work. So let's give it a try. Roll d20. So 14, that's not bad, and you are particularly intelligent with a +3 intelligence. Yeah. So you with a 17. With a 17, you think, oh, I'll try something. Why not? And you pull out your panpipes, and you give it a second to listen to the melody. And the more you listen, the more you feel compelled to start dancing. But you shrug that off and think, no, it's not time for dancing. And then you slowly, kind of like peck typing, like hunt and peck. You're doing that, but with notes, and you're playing them one after another. And before that one comes, and then thankfully it's kind of cyclic music. It's repetitive after a certain number of bars. So every time it comes back around, you're able to pick out what was the note right before it. And eventually, after maybe like 2 or 3 minutes of doing this, you're getting into a rhythm with it, and you're remembering which one comes after which one. Work it out, flip it, and reverse it. It's your flippin' if it's your flippin' if you eventually start playing this thing, and I'm gonna see if it works. I like this as an idea. So there's a chance it's gonna work. Roll. Is it going to be a contested check, or is it just going to be a percentile check? I think a contested check makes the most sense. So, performance check now. So this is this +1. You get a +1 in performance. This in real life would genuinely be exceptionally difficult. Yeah, I know. That's why it only worked, because it got a 17. 17's really relatively high. Probably should have been a bit higher, but hey, for story purposes. A 6 plus 1 performance check. So we get a 7 on our performance. We're doing as best we can, but we are being drowned out by a lot of other fairies. So I'm going to roll for them to see what the fairies are doing with their music. Unbreakable, unbreakable. Thank you for the 500 fairy bits, Lisa. I appreciate that. Here we go. Roll 20 for them. That's a 10. So a 10 beats our 7, especially because the fairies have a positive modifier for their performance. So you do it. You try and play it backwards. You don't succeed in breaking the spell, as it were, but you do get close enough that it will allow for Lokara to at least repeat her save. So roll d20. This is going to be Lokara's save. Are we sure we can play the panpipes? We seem to have trouble with it. We are meant to be able to play the panpipes, yes. Although, good point, because we are proficient in the panpipes, I should have been adding a +2 to it. That was my mistake, I forgot. I don't play bards nearly enough to remember how musical instruments work in this game. No, yes, when you are proficient in an instrument, you roll, you add your proficiency bonus, and then your performance bonus. As far as I'm aware, something like that anyway. That's how I usually like to think of it. So that was meant to be a 9 rather than a 7, which is even closer to what the fairies rolled. I think Ben has secretly been rolling for Apis recently, with all of the ones, you mean, that he always rolls for damage. Backwards music is very hard. All right, so Apis tries to play the music as best they can. The fairies are playing a little bit better, but it's close enough. It sort of counteracts it just enough that that Lokara can repeat the save. Here it goes. Here goes nothing. 15. 15 plus her wisdom. She would have a positive wisdom because she's a hill dwarf. So that's going to be enough to succeed. So as you're playing this backwards, it's getting harder and harder. Eventually, Lokara says, "I think I'm getting tired. How long have I been dancing?" And then she stops dancing for a second, and the dragon goes, "No, keep dancing. You've only just started." And she says, "No, I'm really tired. My legs hurt. I want to go home. I'm tired. Apis, can we go home now?" And the fairies all start to stop the music. And the fairy dragon goes, "Oh, but I was enjoying watching you. Have fun again. Why did you have to spoil it?" he says to you. And the fairies say, "Oh, she doesn't. We should let him go. She doesn't want to dance anymore. Ruining the fun." And then the dragon says, "Well, fine. You can go, but if you want to dance again, you can always come back." And then he kind of like takes off from the branch and flies across above the two of you. And he looks like he's heading directly for some trees that are on the other side of the clearing. But as he gets to the trees, it just disappears. The tree that he flies into disappears as an illusion and reveals a path out of this clearing. Rob is the Rich Little of D&D. Who's Rich Little? The name rings a bell, but I don't know. Lokara's like a little bit upset and sobbing, but she knows that she can... You have no power over me. You have no power over me, Goblin King. And so you disappear out of the clearing, holding Lokara by the hand and leading her away. And she goes, I'm tired, Apis." And you say, I know, Lokara. It's okay. You did some really good dancing though. It's beautiful dancing you did. And isn't the music nice? We should come back and dance another time." She says, "Yeah, let's dance another time." And so you continue walking, and it's not long before you get back to a path that you recognize as one of the ones you were following before. You also look up as you're passing this T-junction where the path you're on meets the main path of the forest. You look up as you reach that T-junction and see that on the branch is sitting a squirrel. The same squirrel that you spoke to before. Kind of nods at you. And on another branch on the other side of the T junction is the fairy dragon, orange scales, and it's just sitting watching. It says, "You can always come back if you want to dance." And then it takes off and flies back down the path. And as it flies down the path, an illusory tree seems to grow at enormous speed out of the ground, covering up the entrance to that path. The squirrel kind of nods and then runs down the tree and runs off into the forest. Rich Little's a man of many voices. Cool. So you lead Lokara back out of the forest, out of the woods, and as you get to the edge of the woods, you see Lokara's father, the human gentleman, looking for him, and he goes, "Oh, there you are! Goodness, you gave me such a fright. Lokara, come home now. You've been out dancing too long. You danced right through." He doesn't say dancing. He doesn't know she's been dancing. "You've been out playing for too long now. I'm sorry, Apis. She's got to come and have her dinner now. It's much too late, and we're meant to be going out tonight, so you've got to come and freshen up." And so she runs off to her daddy and hugs him, and he picks her up in her arms because she doesn't want to walk anymore. And he walks home with her, and you walk home to your place, and that's where we'll leave it today. That was a little incident with a dragon. Your first meeting of a dragon. So thank you guys for joining me for this little adventure, this 3.5 hour little adventure. It's given me a lot to think about how I'm gonna run it in future, and what sort of things I need to set up for it. I think combat's going to be an interesting one to run. I'd like to try some combat, but I think I've got some combat ideas for the first session, for the first episode of what happens, and so that very first session will be a continuation of rehearsals. So this was the rehearsal. The first session will be kind of like a dress rehearsal, and it'll tell us that let us iron out a couple more things that we need to do.